The sun was already climbing high in the sky, and the heat was beginning to burn through the young man's thin shirt as he walked along the empty road. He had been on his feet since early morning. The small plastic folder he carried in his hand held his one-page resume creases, running across it because he had folded it so many times while reading and rereading the words on it, wondering if they were enough to land him the job. His stomach growled softly, reminding him that he had skipped breakfast to save what little money he had for bus fare. Even then, he had gotten off the bus 5 miles earlier because the fare to go all the way to the city was too much for him. If he could just make it to the company on time, maybe life would finally give him a break. Maybe today, everything would change. As he walked, he kept thinking about the interview. He had no fancy degree, no expensive suit, not even a good pair of shoes, but he had determination. And he had hope, that stubborn hope that clung to him even when everything else seemed to go wrong. Just as he turned a corner on the long stretch of road, he saw something ahead. A small car was pulled over to the side, its hood open, steam rising into the air. A young woman stood near it, pacing back and forth, her phone held up as if she was trying to get a signal but failing. For a moment, he slowed his steps. He could hear his heart beating louder than before, not from the walk, but from the quick calculation running through his mind. Help her, or keep walking. If he stopped, even for 10 minutes, he would be late. He had already planned the route carefully, counting every minute to make sure he arrived right on time. One delay and he might lose his only chance. But as he watched her, she looked completely lost. The road was nearly empty. Cars passed by now and then, but none stopped. She kept waving, but they all drove away without even looking. He took a deep breath. "Excuse me," he called out softly as he approached. "Is everything okay?" She turned quickly, her face showing a mix of relief and worry. "My car, it just stopped working. I can't get a signal out here, and I don't know what to do." He walked closer, looking at the car. He wasn't a mechanic, but he knew a few things. His father used to fix old bikes and cars back in their village, and he had watched him enough times to know the basics. "I can take a look," he offered. She nodded quickly, stepping aside. Her hands were trembling slightly. Maybe it was the heat, maybe it was nerves, but she looked like someone who wasn't used to being stranded on an empty road. He checked under the hood, his hands moving carefully. It was nothing too serious, something with the battery connection. He adjusted it, tightened a few things, and asked her to try the engine again. The car coughed, sputtered, then roared back to life. Her face lit up with relief. "Oh, thank you. I was so worried. I didn't know what to do." He smiled faintly, wiping his hands on his trousers. "It should be fine now. Just make sure to get it checked when you reach the city." She looked at him closely then, maybe noticing the sweat on his face, the worn-out shoes, the thin folder in his hand. "Were you going somewhere?" she asked. He hesitated. "Yeah, I have an interview." She glanced at her watch and then at him. "Oh no, I hope this didn't make you late." He forced a small smile. "It's okay, you're safe now. That's what matters." She seemed like she wanted to say more, but a car came speeding by and honked loudly. She flinched, then quickly opened her door. "Thank you again," she said, looking almost guilty. "I hope your interview goes well." He nodded, waved slightly, and then started running down the road, his folder held tightly in his hand. But deep inside, a sinking feeling had already started growing in his chest. He was late. Very late. As he ran, sweat dripping down his face, he kept wondering if he had made the right choice. Helping her had felt right in the moment, but what if this was the one chance to change his life, and he had just let it slip away? The road stretched ahead endlessly, and with every step, he could feel time slipping through his fingers. The young man ran as fast as his tired legs could carry him. His folder felt heavier now, not because of its weight but because of the fear inside his heart. Every second mattered. The company's tall glass building finally came into view, shining in the sun like a dream he was chasing. He slowed down only when he reached the gate, sweat pouring down his face, his chest rising and falling heavily. He glanced at the big clock near the entrance. He was 15 minutes late. His heart sank. He still rushed inside, hoping maybe they would understand. Maybe someone would listen. At the reception desk, he asked for the interview room, his voice shaky but polite. The woman at the desk looked at him with tired eyes, then checked the list on her tablet. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "The interviews for that position are already closed. The last candidate just left." Her words felt like a punch in his chest. "Please," he said quickly. "I had to help someone on the road. It was an emergency. Can I still talk to someone? Anyone?" She shook her head slowly. "I'm afraid. The hiring manager has already left for another meeting. The decision will be made based on the interviews taken today." He stood there for a moment, not knowing what to say. People walked past him, busy and confident, dressed in sharp suits and polished shoes. He felt small, out of place, like he didn't belong in this big, shiny world. His throat felt dry. He turned and walked out slowly, his footsteps heavy on the tiled floor. Outside, he sat on the edge of the sidewalk, the folder still in his hand. The sun was hotter now, burning his skin, but he barely felt it. He stared at the busy traffic in front of him, cars rushing by, people living their lives. While he sat there with nothing but disappointment in his chest, he thought about the job, how he had dreamed of earning enough to help his family, to finally eat 3 meals a day without counting coins first, to stop worrying about rent. He thought about his mother back home, how proud she would have been if he had called her with good news tonight. Instead, what would he tell her? That he was late? That he missed the only chance he had because he stopped to help a stranger? His stomach growled again, but this time he ignored it. After a while, he got up and started walking toward the bus station. The bus fare for the return trip would take the last bit of money he had, but there was no choice. His shoes felt heavier than before, and every step reminded him of the empty wallet in his pocket. On the bus, he sat near the window, watching the city blur past. Bright shops, tall buildings, people laughing with ice creams in their hands. None of it felt like his world. When the bus stopped near a small park, he got off. He needed some air before heading home to his small rented room. He sat on a bench under a tree, staring at the folder in his hands. The paper inside was still neat, untouched. No one had even looked at it. He thought about the girl on the road. She had thanked him quickly, then driven away. He didn't even know her name. She probably forgot about him already, but he couldn't forget her. Not because she owed him anything, she didn't, but because helping her had cost him everything he had hoped for today. As the sun started to set, the city lights came on, glowing softly in the distance. People walked by, couples laughing, children chasing each other, office workers heading home. Life moved on, but he felt stuck, like he was standing in the same place while the world kept spinning around him. Finally he stood up. There was no point sitting here. He had to go home and think about what to do next. Tomorrow he would start again, somehow. But deep inside, a small voice kept whispering, what if this was the only chance he had, and it was gone forever? He pushed the thought away, walking slowly toward the bus stop. He didn't know that fate was already planning something bigger, something he couldn't see yet. The next morning, the young man woke up with a heavy heart. His small rented room felt colder than usual. The thin mattress creaked as he sat up, rubbing his tired eyes. He hadn't slept well. Thoughts about the missed interview kept running through his mind all night. He reached for his phone, hoping for some miracle message, maybe a call back from the company. There was nothing. With a sigh, he decided to go out. He had no plan, but staying inside wouldn't solve anything. He walked to a small cafe nearby, where they gave free water and sometimes didn't mind people sitting for hours as long as they bought the cheapest cup of tea. He needed Wi-Fi too. Check for new job postings. The cafe was busy but quiet. Students typed on laptops. Office workers sipped coffee before heading to work. He found a seat near the corner, far from everyone else, and placed his old phone on the table. He ordered the cheapest tea and began scrolling through job ads, his eyes scanning quickly even though his mind was tired. Suddenly, a soft sound of expensive heels clicked against the floor. Catching his attention, he looked up and froze. It was her. The same woman from the road. But this time, she looked completely different. Yesterday, she had been a worried stranger with a broken car. Today, she wore a crisp white suit, elegant jewelry, and carried herself with the kind of confidence people notice immediately. Two men in suits followed her, carrying files and talking in low voices. The cafe staff greeted her politely, almost nervously, like she was someone important. The young man stared, his mind racing. Why were people acting like this around her? She ordered coffee, speaking calmly, her voice soft but firm. One of the men called her ma'am and mentioned something about a meeting. The young man's heart beat faster. A meeting? Assistants following her, people treating her like she was in charge? He didn't understand at first. Then he heard one sentence clearly from the man beside her. The board is waiting for you at the company office, ma'am. Company office. Board meeting. It hit him like a storm. She wasn't just anyone. She worked at the top. Maybe even the boss. He felt his throat go dry. Could she be? No, that was impossible. But the way people stood straighter when she walked by, the respect in their voices, the way the men followed her every instruction, it all pointed to one thing. She wasn't just an employee. She was the CEO, the very same company where he had lost his only chance yesterday. His mind was spinning now. Should he go up to her? Should he remind her who he was, the stranger who had helped her on the road? But what if she didn't remember him? What if she thought he was just looking for favors? He sat there frozen, torn between courage and fear. Before he could decide, she turned and her eyes fell on him. For a moment, she looked surprised. Then she walked over. You, she said softly, her eyes widening slightly. You're the one who helped me yesterday. He nodded slowly, unsure what to say. Yes. I was just here looking for jobs. She looked at the worn-out folder on his table, the cheap cup of tea, the tired look in his eyes. Did you make it to your interview yesterday? She asked. He hesitated. I was late. They said the interviews were over. She was quiet. For a moment, her face unreadable. Then she said something he didn't expect. Which company? He looked at her confused. The one with your company's name, he said softly. The same place where you work. Her expression changed. Slightly, like something clicked in her mind. She straightened up. Come to the company office tomorrow morning, she said firmly. Ask for me. I'll handle it personally. He blinked, not sure he heard her right. Ma'am? She smiled faintly. Consider it my way of thanking you. Be there at 9. And just like that, she left with her assistants, leaving him sitting there, stunned. The cafe felt different now. His heart was racing. But this time, it wasn't fear. It was hope. For the first time in days, maybe weeks, he felt like something good was finally about to happen. The next morning, the young man woke up earlier than usual. He didn't sleep much the night before because his mind kept replaying what had happened in the cafe acute. She wanted him to come to the company office. She had said it clearly, firmly, as if she was someone who could actually make things happen. He had checked the company name online late at night, and his suspicions were right. She wasn't just a manager, she was the CEO, the top, the one everyone respected, and she wanted to see him. He didn't have fancy clothes. He wore the same shirt he had washed the night before and ironed carefully. It wasn't perfect, but it was neat. He combed his hair twice, made sure his resume wasn't folded this time, and left early enough to avoid being late again. When he reached the tall glass building, it felt different today. He didn't walk in as a desperate job seeker this time, but as someone carrying a strange mix of fear and hope. The receptionist recognized him from yesterday. "The CEO asked me to send you up when you arrive," she said, her voice polite now, almost respectful. He followed her directions, stepping into the elevator. As it rose higher and higher, his heart beat faster. The doors opened to a large floor with bright windows and quiet hallways. The air felt different here, serious, busy, important. People in suits walked past quickly, some carrying files, others talking in low voices. Finally, he was led into a spacious office with a huge desk near the window. Behind it stood the same woman from the road, the one he had helped without knowing who she really was. She looked up from her laptop and smiled. "You made it," she said warmly. Double quotes, "Yes, ma'am," he said softly, standing nervously near the chair she pointed to. "Sit," she said. "We need to talk." He sat down, clutching his folder, unsure what to expect. She leaned back in her chair. "I owe you a thank you," she began. "Yesterday, you helped me when no one else stopped. Do you know how many cars passed by? Dozens. And yet, you, someone who didn't even know me, stopped to help." He shrugged slightly. "It was the right thing to do." Her eyes softened. "And because you did the right thing, you lost your interview." He looked down at his folder, his voice low. "Yes, ma'am, but it's okay." "No, it's not," she said firmly. "People like you, people who do the right thing even when it costs them something, are rare. My company needs people like that." He looked up, surprised. She pressed a button on her desk phone. "Send in Mr. Daniels," she said to her assistant. A few minutes later, a man in a suit walked in, holding some papers. "This is the hiring manager," she told the young man. "He's going to interview you, right here, right now, and I'll be watching." His eyes widened. He hadn't expected this. Hiring manager smiled politely and began asking questions about his education, his skills, why he wanted the job. The young man answered honestly. He didn't have big degrees or fancy experience, but he spoke with sincerity. He talked about how hard he was willing to work, how he learned quickly, how he never gave up even when life was tough. When the questions ended, the hiring manager nodded. "Thank you," he said, and left the room. The CEO watched him silently for a moment, then smiled faintly. "You know," she said softly, "yesterday I was rushing to a meeting with board members when my car broke down. If you hadn't stopped, I might have been stranded there for hours. You helped me without asking for anything in return. People like that deserve a chance." He didn't know what to say. She stood and offered her hand. "Welcome to the company," she said with a smile. His mouth fell open slightly. "You mean I got the job?" "Yes," she said firmly. "Sometimes character matters more than perfect resumes. And you proved your character before you even stepped into this building." He shook her hand, his own trembling slightly. "Thank you. Thank you so much," he said, his voice cracking. She smiled again. "You start on Monday. Work hard. And don't ever lose that kindness." He left the office that day with a job offer in his hand and a feeling in his heart he couldn't describe. Yesterday, he had walked into the same building with nothing but hope and had left with disappointment. Today, he walked out with a future. The following Monday, the young man woke up before sunrise. He couldn't remember the last time he had felt this much energy in his body. Even though his shirt was still the same old one, washed and ironed with care, it didn't matter anymore. He was no longer the man who had walked miles under the burning sun with only hope in his pocket. Now he had a job. A real chance. As he entered the company building, people smiled politely at him. Some even nodded like they already knew who he was. It felt strange. Just a few days ago, nobody had looked at him twice. The receptionist handed him a badge with his name on it. "Welcome to the team," she said warmly. He smiled back shyly, still getting used to this new life. During his first few hours, the hiring manager introduced him to everyone in the department. The work was new, the systems complicated, but he listened carefully, determined to learn everything. He didn't want to waste the opportunity the CEO had given him. At lunchtime, he sat in the cafeteria with other employees. The place was buzzing with chatter. Some people looked at him curiously, whispering softly to each other. Finally, one of the employees leaned closer and said, "You're the guy who helped the boss on the road, right?" He froze for a second, then nodded slowly. The man grinned. "The whole company's talking about it. How you helped her, missed your interview, and still got hired because of your honesty." Others around the table smiled too. "She doesn't usually get involved in interviews personally," someone said. "You must have made a big impression." The young man felt his ears turn warm. He wasn't used to attention. All he had done was stop to help someone in need. He never imagined it would change his life like this. Later that week, the CEO called him to her office again. When he entered, she was standing near the window, looking out at the city below. "Settling in, okay?" She asked. "Yes, ma'am," he said softly. "I'm learning a lot." She turned to face him. "Good. I wanted you to know something." He listened quietly, unsure what was coming. "The day you helped me," she said slowly, "I had meetings worth millions waiting for me. But in that moment, stranded on the road, none of it mattered. I was just a woman in trouble. And you, someone with nothing to gain, stopped to help me. That told me more about you than any resume ever could." He didn't know how to respond. Her words felt heavy, like they carried more meaning than just gratitude. She smiled faintly. "I like to believe kindness should be rewarded, not always with money, sometimes with opportunities. You deserve this one." He nodded slowly. "Thank you, ma'am. I'll work hard. I won't let you down." "I know you won't," she said with quiet confidence. Weeks passed, and the young man became known in the office not just for his work but for his humble nature. People admired how he treated everyone with respect, no matter their position. One afternoon, the company held a small gathering for new employees. To his shock, the CEO told his story in front of everyone, how he had helped her on the road without knowing who she was, how he had missed his interview but ended up with a job because of his honesty and kindness. People clapped warmly when she finished. Some even patted him on the back, smiling. For the young man, it was overwhelming. He had lived his whole life quietly, never expecting recognition, never imagining that strangers would clap for him one day. Months later, his life looked completely different. He could send money home to his mother now, pay his rent without counting coins, and even save a little for the future. The stress that had once weighed on his shoulders slowly lifted, replaced by quiet hope. And every time he passed the CEO in the hallway, she would give him a small smile, the kind that said she hadn't forgotten where this all began, because it hadn't started with a job, that it had started on a hot afternoon, on a lonely road, when a broke young man chose to help a stranger instead of walking away. And that one act of kindness changed everything.